What's up, everyone? Welcome to another live edition of the Sports Sentiment. We're here on a Wednesday afternoon. First day of San Jose State football training camp is officially in the books. We're going to be talking SJSU football, some Mountain West storylines, and just overall our thoughts on the college football season with less than 4 weeks away from week 0, 30 days away from San Jose State football kicking off week 1 versus Central Michigan. We got to hear from Coach Ken today after day 1 of fall camp. I personally got to talk to the newcomer Caleb Presley, San Jose State cornerback, so I could give you just overall some thoughts on what he said. We'll post that interview later today on the channel. We also talked to Jalen Applet-Williams, one of the more longer existing SJSU Spartans on the roster. He's been on the team since the 2021-22 season. First time we ever chatted with him, believe it or not. So he's looking for himself a big season. He's going to be playing a vital role in the safety spot for San Jose State this year. But I guess just some overarching storylines on just day 1 of fall camp. I think first and foremost, what Coach Ken and I think everybody that we talk to, and just I think everybody as a whole, the media guys talk to, number one storyline, it's day 1. This is the body of work is not entirely there yet. All the players say we're looking to get better and better and better. I imagine they like where they're at right now, but they're always striving to get better. And it's only day 1. We learned a little bit more about the team based on the Coach Ken media scrum today, which I can go ahead and tell you a little bit more about then. But this is our first time that we've been chatting on the channel since Mountain West Media Day. So I got to go ahead and, just talk about the Mountain West Media Days. I know we're over 2 weeks removed from it, but very successful on our end. Got to thank everybody at KSJS, to our good friends, Cara Bench and Evan Weiss, for helping me out behind the scenes, making everything possible, to San Jose State and all the SIDs. I appreciate everybody, SJSU Athletics and everybody behind the scenes. It's a well-oiled machine, and I'm just very thankful to be out there, just covering the sport and, doing all things Mountain West. So appreciate everybody for media days. Look, we talked to all 12 of the 23 student athletes, all 12 Mountain West football coaches. We got Gloria Navarez and SJSU athletic director Jeff Konya. I'm very just satisfied with the body of work and, just how much we got out there. Tons of coverage. All of our videos, all of our interviews are published on the Sports Sentiment YouTube channel. So if you haven't checked out the interviews, by all means, go ahead, check it out. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback and, just overall, just a whole lot of thumbs up from everybody all around. So appreciate the love on that end. From the media days, from the football standpoint of it, we're very excited for the season. Less than 4 weeks away. Week 0 is SJSU kicks off versus Central Michigan in 30 days. Believe it or not, I can't believe it's already here. So look, we're very excited, just for the season and just for football to be back. I mean, who doesn't like stack Saturday, slates on football, from whether you're a Power 5 guy or not, or you're a small, group of 5 type of person that just likes to watch all the little guys play. Football is back. And, everyone's getting amped up for it. Training camps all around the Mountain West are officially underway. Just some overall storylines that I'd like to just tell some folks just from what I've learned at Media Day. Just overall, I thought the players were great. Great stuff from the players. A lot of guys aren't going to reveal too much, just from top to bottom. They're going to talk about personnel, things like that. But no one's going to really say too much about, the plays, the scheme, stuff like that. They'll say it fits within their position and stuff like that. But ultimately, we're not going to know what these teams look like, in a sense, until, we see film on it and, it's out on the football field in week 1, week 0, whatever. But some big things that I gathered. Air Force, their quarterback situation, I would say is very much still up in the air. A lot of these quarterback situations are still up in the air. The Fresno State's having themselves like a 3 quarterback battle. Air Force is still up in the air. But what brings me to Air Force is the Air Force team. if you don't know about Air Force, they can only lose in the portal. And, all these guys that come back, they've worked their way up and they've been with the team, and there's a lot of continuity within that roster. That defense returns a whole lot of pieces. I think they're going to be very good. I think they'll be much better stopping the run this year compared to last year. They had a 5-7 season last year, which is completely outside of Troy Calhoun, Air Force head coach, his team, his pedigree, and that character of that roster. I was very shocked that, in a sense that they only struggled last year. But as far as this year, this is going to be a team that is very inexperienced at the quarterback position. They're going to be having themselves a fight for the QB1 job. And I wouldn't be shocked if whoever wins the job in week 1 has a short leash, because they only have 29 career snaps amongst the entire quarterback room. Josh Johnson's a guy that has been, on the depth charts. If you go look him up online, that's been the guy. But Liam Zarka is a guy for Air Force that is going to get some run this year, I feel like. We talked to Bruin Fleischman, the Air Force tight end. I always just like to get the players' thoughts on, hey, who's one guy that is going to make some noise this year on your team? He said Liam Zarka. So Air Force in that quarterback position, I think, is very intriguing. And, it's hard to look at these week 1 games, especially in the non-conference portion of the schedule, because you either got a UNLV team that's playing Idaho State, and you're probably not going to learn a thing from them when they blast them by 50 points. And then you're going to get New Mexico going to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and you're not going to really know what that team is like because of the hostile environment and the stout defense that the Michigan Wolverines have. So, it's very difficult to grasp the games because the competition at this time of year is so wide. But that Air Force game versus Bucknell is going to be a game that I'm circling to watch in week 1, simply because of how the quarterback navigates that triple option. Last year, Air Force played, who was it? The Merrimack Warriors, and it did not look good. And I thought, man, San Jose State played Air Force in Colorado Springs in week 2 last year. And I just thought, man, this is an opportunity for San Jose State to really take advantage of an offense that doesn't look in sync. And they did. John Boucher last year for Air Force just didn't look right. So I'm very interested just to see how Air Force versus Bucknell, the Falcons are more, heck, they better win. They should be able to beat an FCS team in the Patriot League pretty easily. It's just a matter of, I want to see how fluid the team looks, because all the running backs, all the fullbacks are back. They get another year under their belt. This is an Air Force team that, like we said, it's got returning production, but it's just a matter of, can the team and the quarterback that's got very little experience across the board, are they going to be able to, navigate this thing? And I think if it looks a little sluggish early, week 1, week 2, I wouldn't be shocked if they pulled the trigger and, Air Force decides to go with a different quarterback. So that's something that I gathered from Media Day that I thought was, pretty compelling. That I think people should be keep an eye on, because Air Force doesn't really have too much coverage on their end. You don't really know what's going on until you really see the product on the field. So I have that game circled, Air Force versus Bucknell, just to see what the offense looks like. Another team, Wyoming. Wyoming is buried on everybody's bottom of the preseason polls. They're projected to finish in the bottom, quarter, bottom third, whatever. That team, I have to say, from just talking to the players and Jay Sauvel, their head coach, they might get bumped up a few spots. Maybe not a few spots, but at least 1 or 2 spots, because I think they're further ahead along. And I think there was just more confidence within the team and the players and the coaches from what we saw at Media Day compared to maybe I thought heading in, because Wyoming was just horrendously bad last year. We're not going to sugarcoat it. Offensively, under Evans Svoboda, they were very problematic. I mean, they got drilled by Arizona State, not the worst loss in the world given the way the Sun Devils were last year in the college football playoff, but losing a home game versus an FCS team and the Idaho Vandals is never good. So Wyoming with Evans Svoboda, the quarterback play wasn't good. He's moved to tight end, and that was something that really intrigued me. I knew he played tight end last year, I think in the final game or the final couple games versus New Mexico in the shootout in Albuquerque last year. But now he's making the full-time transition to tight end. He's got a tight end body. He's a big quarterback. He was a big dude at the quarterback position last year. I think, he's got the tight end body. And, all signs are pointing towards like he's going to be on the field with John Michael Gillenborg, Cowboy tight end, at the same time. So I'm very interested to see the tight end packages and just how that Wyoming offense looks. They have a whole lot of confidence in Caden Anderson. We'll see how that turns out. He looked much better than Svoboda last year, that's for sure. But I think Wyoming, they're going to always be feisty defensively. There's no doubt about it. Last year, the metrics were not great compared to years past with them. Year one with the coaching turnover, I get it. Just overall, Wyoming was no good last year. I think they'll be better this year. I think they're going to win some games in Laramie, which weird stuff always happens in Laradice with the 7,000 feet in elevation. Those teams that never play there just always find a way to give out in the fourth quarter. And weird stuff happens there, like block field goals, return for a touchdown, safety to win the game. Like weird stuff happens in that building. I wouldn't be shocked if a Mountain West team goes in there this year, like a higher team goes in there and loses. I think Colorado State goes there. I mean, I would favor Wyoming in that game, honestly, just because of the rivalry and the last year that we have that game in the Mountain West. But those are just some things. John Michael Gillenborg, I expect a big year out of him. He's going to be probably their most important player in their offense, outside of the quarterback position. He's going to be catching a bunch of balls from, and the fact that he wasn't on the preseason poll was quite shocking at the tight end position. They did put Matt Lauder in there on the preseason poll for Boise State, which I have no problem with. But John Michael Gillenborg, I think, deserves some love. You can only put one tight end in there. Just that's a talented player that the league needs to know about. Not if you watch the Mountain West, you already know what that guy brings to the table. But I think people are going to regret not putting him on the preseason polls. And I'll tell you what, I'd be floored if he's not on the main conference list at the end of the year. Hawaii was another team that I'm like, okay, I'm starting to buy in a little bit more to them. Year 4 under Timmy Chang, they've had back-to-back 5-win seasons. I think this is going to be the year that they win a few more close games. I think this is the year that they're going bowling now. Timmy Chang, he was inherited a bad roster in year 1. Year 2, it got a little bit better with the 5 wins. Year 3, they were still trying to figure it out with Braden Shager. He was making mistakes at the quarterback position. They brought in Micah Alifado at the quarterback position late in the season. Offense looked so much more fluid, a whole lot more explosive. I know it's only a 1-game sample size versus New Mexico, but he's going to be the starter heading into this year. And wide receiver Pofele Ashlock, I mean, this guy might lead the Mountain West in receiving yards this year. I don't think that's far-fetched to say, given what the offensive scheme. He played 1 game last season versus New Mexico with Alifado at quarterback, and he had over 130 receiving yards. So I'm expecting a big year out of Pofele Ashlock, Hawaii Rainbow Warrior wide receiver, and that defense. Like they have them and San Diego State return like everybody on defense. They might have one transfer that's going to be coming in and that's going to be inserted into the defense. But outside of that, there's really not a whole lot of roster turnover. I like that. Now, given that San Diego State defense, they had individual players that were good, but overall as a unit, it was no good. And then, just some other players like the maturity of Cage Casey for Boise State. That guy is hands down the leader of that team. That's a guy that, he came up to me before we even started the media day festivities, and he's over here shaking my hand, introducing himself. So I got a whole lot of respect for that kid. That's going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft next year. So that guy is totally ready, I feel like, for the pros. And he's going to be a big part of what Boise State does this year on that offensive line. An offensive line that got a whole lot of credit last year, but I don't think, in a sense, got enough credit given all their injuries on the line of scrimmage last year. Cage Casey is a big part of that, and he's the anchor of that team offensively. And then, Bryson Barnes, returning for Utah State, I think it's big. They bring in Kevin McGivern, former San Jose State offensive coordinator. That relationship, according to Barnes, has been pretty good. And they returned not a whole lot on offense, but I think learning the scheme and, learning the offense with them, I think they're going to be one of those teams they're going to score some points this year. And Utah State, I'm going to say this. That team might struggle to start the year, but Bronco Mendenhall in year one over there, he's going to get the most out of that team. Might not be a bowl season or whatever, but it's going to be 4 to 5 wins, I feel like. And I'd probably say like a 5-win season for them. And in the second half, I think they do have a chance to take out a heavyweight in this thing, just because Mendenhall always gets the most out of his rosters. You've seen it, whether it's at BYU or Virginia. I mean, like what he got out of the New Mexico roster last year was insane. And like with Devin Dampier and Eli Sanders and Ben White and Wysong at the wide receiver, like it was just ridiculous what they were doing on offense, how putrid the defense was, and they were still finding a way, to win 5 games with the New Mexico team. Last year in 2024, that was only projected to win 1 or 2 games. So the bottom line is Bronco Mendenhall is coaching Utah State. I would just expect them to exceed expectations. That's what I have to say about that. Outside of that, I mean, this whole thing looks pretty good. I think the coaches from top to bottom look pretty good in the Mountain West. If there's one person you're probably like, okay, like he needs results this year, I'd probably say it's San Diego State and Sean Lewis. That might be like the one situation that I'm worried about. They got to get fans in the stands over there at the Snapper. At Snapdragon Stadium. It's that simple. Everybody's bought into the basketball program. They're probably charging a whole lot of money for seats for football. And quite honestly, like I read a few weeks ago that San Diego State hasn't had like a 2,500-yard passer in almost like 10 years or something. It's been like since like 2015, something ridiculous. So they got to figure out with the quarterback position. They're having a QB battle at San Diego State again this year with Jaden Denegal, the Michigan Wolverine transfer, and Bert Emanuel, the Central Michigan transfer. Sean Lewis hasn't ruled out that he might play both of them at the same time in that Aztec fast offense. So we'll see what that looks like. There is just a whole lot of unknowns with that team, and they got some of these weird games. Like I think they play UCLA this year again. Like they're at Corvallis once again. Like there is just some weird stuff on the schedule with them. They play Cal week 1 in an ultimate coin flip game. So we'll see what that team looks like. You just hope for their sake that it doesn't turn into 1-3 and then the whole season spirals out. I think he's got to win games. It's that simple. You got to win games to pack fans in the stands, and it's one of those ordeals with San Diego State that look, they got all this movement on offense and defense. They almost brought back everybody. The metrics weren't good for them, like we said, but like that Trey White kid is going to be a pro on their edge rusher on the defensive line. I think he had like 12.5 sacks last year and led the Mountain West. So he's going to be good. He's going to be good in the NFL when he gets drafted next year. So it's just a matter of the team and them coming together and building it. That's what I'm probably looking for San Diego State. I haven't picked towards the bottom just because I think the Mountain West, there's a lot of good coaches in the Mountain West this year. And, like even the guys that like they brought in, like I like Jason Eck from New Mexico. I think he's going to struggle year 1, but that's a guy from Idaho where he, in 3 years over there with the Vandals in Moscow, he got him to 3 FCS playoff appearances. So I like the upside just overall with these coaches as a whole. Long term, there's a lot to like with the coaches. I just think some of these guys are going to struggle in year 1 just because, there's just so much movement with the rosters and it's really not the guys that they recruited, right? So there's a whole lot that goes into it. But Bronco Mendenhall, I think, is a smash hit at Utah State. He's a Utah guy. Jason Eck. We talked about Sean Lewis, how he needs a little bit more results here in year 2 down in Southern California. I just overall like what we have. I think Timmy Chang's a good coach, and I think he's going to get a whole lot of that roster in year 4 down there in the island. So I'm just interested to see the Mountain West this year because I think the bottom, in a sense, like Jeff Choate too for Nevada. I think like the Jeff Choate Nevada team could go out and scare somebody that comes into Reno. We already know he plays Boise State very tough. So I think I wouldn't be shocked if there's more upsets in the Mountain West this year. That could be a problem as far as college football playoff is concerned and stuff like that. you're going to need a whole lot of help from, some of the other teams like the American, and I don't expect the team from the Sun Belt to really make any noise as far as big picture wise. The Conference USA, the strength of schedule is not good enough. So I think the Mountain West is in the forefront for the college football playoff bid once again, just because the overall body of work with these teams is pretty good. But again, if you're the team up top, you can't take the silly loss and then, win the Mountain West championship game. So interested to see how that all pans out. Just overall, some of my takeaways from Media Day. And that UNLV team with Dan Mullen, they're going to be really well coached, but I don't really know what to make of them. They got the SEC athletes. Marcel McDuffie at the linebacker spot is going to be really good this year, I think. Kind of got overshadowed for his impact because of Jackson Woodard in the NFL now. I'm just fascinated to see what they have on offense because Anthony Calandria and Alex Orji are fighting for the QB1 spot over there in Las Vegas. It's just going to be a matter of how that offense works. I don't really know what that offense is going to look like. So they're a big fat question mark on offense. I think they're going to be good on defense again. Jake Pope, I think SEC guy that got recruited at Alabama and at Georgia. That's going to be a guy on the secondary that's going to make a whole lot of impact. And I think Marcel McDuffie's going to have a monster year at the linebacker spot, just a tackling machine. I'd expect him on the, some Mountain West conference lists, just overall at the end of the season, just because I think the production's just going to be there and he's just going to rack up the tackles and just have, just cause a whole lot of havoc overall. So interested to see how that UNLV team works and just materializes because they were picked second in the preseason polls. And quite honestly, who knows what their identity looks like on offense. So that's where I'm at with them. Boise's the favorite. You can argue San Jose State, right? They got picked third. You can argue second. The schedule lines up very nice for them. Just given that they don't play Boise State, they don't play UNLV, they don't play Colorado State, they get the Fresno game at home, and really the toughest stretch outside of the Texas game, as far as the Mountain West schedule is concerned, is the Utah State matchup at Utah State and then at Wyoming the week before. So you got the back-to-back road trip in altitude. In Wyoming, that's already a tough place to play, and then you're going to be playing Bronco and Mendenhall towards like the second, third, back half of the season in Utah State on prime time as well, which is, I think, will be a little bit tricky, just given the situation and just being out in the mountain states for so long. I would expect some fatigue. That just being quite frank with you, just that's how it's going to work. I don't know if the team's going to travel back and all of that, but I highly doubt it. I think they'll just stay out there. Who knows? But I'm interested to just see that stretch of the season and just to see where that San Jose State team is at. As far as San Jose State is concerned, so Walker Eggett, he is the QB1 of this team. It's been pretty much penciled in since a few weeks after the Hawaii Bowl, since like National Signing Day. Coach Ken, he's not sugarcoating it. He's not making it a secret. He's just laying the lumber and says, Walker's our guy, and he's got to accept it. And he has, which is most important, for this team, given what given the weapons that they have on offense. He needs to understand that. Coach Ken told me at Media Days, and he has. As far as San Jose State and what they have in front of them going forward, they have the Central Michigan game in 30 days. And then they got that Texas game that's going to be difficult for them. They'll probably be like a 5-touchdown underdog. And it's just one of those games where you hope no one gets hurt. You hope you can keep it close and have the game, within arm's reach and, keep up with a Texas team that doesn't really have many weaknesses and has just quite honestly, a different stature of an athlete across the board. Then they got the Idaho game, and then they got, some other games sprinkled in to get into the Mountain West schedule. The schedule is as manageable as you can have it if you're San Jose State. And it's just all about taking care of that schedule. They get Stanford on the road in Palo Alto. I imagine there won't be many people. There might be more San Jose State fans in the building in Palo Alto than folks, we're repping Stanford, quite honestly. I don't think that's far-fetched. And I'll tell you what, Stanford right now, just from like what I'm hearing, like it is, they are way behind, and they fired Troy Taylor a week before the spring game. So they got Frank Reich in there, doesn't have any coaching experience, just to, survive the season. And then Andrew Luck will bring in his guy. I'm interested to see how that works, but it's a very manageable schedule for San Jose State. They just got to go out there, play the games, and let their game do the talking. As far as Coach Ken and what he's told us, the talking that he did today, post day one of fall camp, he says overall he loves the wide receiver depth, and he says our team captains have been in the forefront of getting this team prepared for week one. Obviously, the coaches are doing that, but Walker Eget, Taniela Latu have been in the forefront on offense and defense as far as rallying this team and getting them where they want to be. Coach Ken, as far as, just some other things, he said the offensive line, just the ones and the twos is pretty much set in stone. He likes what he had. A lot of the guys that are returning last year are probably, going to see the field once again. He's liked the progress of Daniel Malini quite a bit. He played a little bit of right tackle, I believe, last year. His brother went to Sac State last season. I don't know if he's there. I just remember that little nugget about him. But that's a guy that's kind of impressed in camp, Daniel Malini on the offensive line. He likes what he's seen in Joseph Harbert. He got some time in the back half of the season on the left side of the offensive line. And then Hudson Mesa, at the center position, he says has looked very good. And Tyler Chen. Tyler Chen's a guy that battled through adversity last year. I mean, look, remember week one for Sac State, he was sailing everything over Emmett Brown, got benched. They brought in Mesa. Mesa retained the job all throughout the season. And then they were kind of rotating Chen in and out, left guard, right guard. He materialized at the left guard spot very nicely for San Jose State. Now, I think that was it was one of those things that they had to work out on the fly, and I give the coaching staff a whole lot of credit. They managed it very well. So I think this offensive line, I think, has a chance to be very good again. Much better, I would say, is the term. Roster continuity is always important. I like it on the offensive line. If you have a good line, I would say the line was pretty good last year from a pass blocking perspective. They can improve on the run stuff. I think I would say that's not one of the things for San Jose State. Like, you got tons of guys back, like, and there might be some reshuffling here and there, but I think that's not one of the things compared to last year. I think there was a lot of things last year that I think heading into the season, folks were worried about. I mean, I would say this year, there's obviously a whole lot less question marks, but I don't think the offensive line is one of them. I want to see from them just a little bit more on the run stuff, given that, the Spartans really didn't run the ball much last year. And when they did, it really wasn't, they wanted more production out of it. Floyd Chalk was obviously awesome. He got some of those chunk yardage plays. A lot of him was just like him breaking tackles of it. Wasn't like too much gaping holes for him in that sense. But this run game, I'd expect San Jose State to run the ball a little bit more. They've been a little bit more. They've been pressing a little bit more on running the ball. Like, hey, we respect the run game. And they want to utilize the run game. That's something that they've always envisioned and talked about. I think what was for them last year is that Nick Nash and Justin Lockhart were so good, and the offensive line was still working out its kinks, where it's one of those things like, we're going to sling the ball even if it's not the most obvious passing down and distance. So I am interested to see how that's more utilized a little bit more. I think in the fourth quarter, if you have that 10-point cushion in some of these games in Mountain West play, San Jose State's going to lean on that, because I think they have more faith in the line this year. And I think when you got Floyd Chalk the fourth, and you got Lamar Radcliffe, who I think is maybe their most high upside back, just given his age, and he's only a sophomore. He's only heading into his sophomore season, and just the body of work that he showed last year for Stanford in the Hawaii Bowl. There's a whole lot, to like there. You just hope the kid, if he has a monster year, and is very productive, that he doesn't transfer out. So, when it's all said and done in a year from now. So I think the run game is going to be more reliant upon this year. And I know the guys want that. Walker, we talked to him about it at media day, and he's like, yeah, we have a whole lot of faith in those guys. That's something that we want to lean upon. I think it was just the team was still trying to learn about themselves last year. I think that will be a little bit more different this year. Everybody's a year older, year two. Coach Ken even said today that, like, look, everybody knows the culture here now. It's the guys that have been here from last year to this year, they understand what we're trying to do here. And, it's just all about getting the other guys, getting sped up and, learning some things. Speaking of the new guys, Caleb Presley, who's I think going to be a big part of, just San Jose State secondary this fall. The transfer from Washington didn't play last year. He redshirted in 2023. So there's basically everybody's going to see what this guy has for the first time. He made some plays out there today. We don't see too much. The media doesn't see too much of, just of the drills as a whole. We're not sitting in on, the entire 100-minute practice. But we see some flashes here and there. Presley made some great acrobatic plays, just hunting for the football, which, athleticism at that position, you'll take it 100%. He's an athlete. And, the other kid, Malachi Crawford, he's like 6'4". So I'm looking forward to chatting with him, sometime before week 1. The USC transfer who's expected to play a vital role for the secondary this season. But I mean, you got to like the way that this defense is, set up. The defensive line, I would say, is going to be, you would hope that the numbers last year weren't very good with them. Just Soani Toia had himself a monster year, individually, but run defense, it's got to be better. I think they were in like 119th rush defense. That's got to improve. Pass defense, they were exposed in some big games, like the Washington State game. Like every 3rd and 14, John Mateer is either running on his feet, improvising on the fly, or he's hitting a big play to the Williams kid or Chris Hudson. So that was, that's something that's got to get improved on. We'll see how that materializes. Nofa Funa, he's on the preseason list, so they're expecting a big year out of him. At least Mountain West media is. Justin Stearns, we talked to him. Coach Ken gave him a shout out during the media scrum today. Like, that's a guy that's been putting in the work and has gotten a whole lot better. Excuse me. And that guy, Justin Stearns, is a monster. He is huge. He's probably like 6'5", 2 something. I don't have his exact his measurables in front of me, but he is one of the bigger guys on the team. So Justin Stearns is a guy that, for the Spartan fans out there, that's a guy that when he gets his opportunity, that's a guy that I'm circling that to keep an eye on the San Jose State defensive line. And then look, you got Taniela Latu and Jordan Pollard coming back for another year. Jordan Pollard is a tackling machine. San Jose State, I don't think enough people talk about this, just with their pipeline. They always have themselves a very productive linebacker. Like there's a linebacker, I don't know how many years go back, but when you talk about Kyle Harmon and Brian Parham and now Jordan Pollard coming on this list now, he is just one of these guys, tackling machine, always making an impact, tackle for loss. You see when these linebackers play the run against a team like Air Force that's obviously runs the triple option, they are all over the place against the Falcons. So those linebackers for San Jose State, I think, has been a strength for them for like the past half decade, and I think hasn't gotten enough credit, just across the Mountain West, maybe within the fan base, because that's always been a strength for them with under Coach Derek Godum. And when we were going back and forth, with Caleb Presley today, in our one-on-one, I was just asking him, like, have you really seen like the culture of what this team really brings? And he's all like, I saw it the first day when I visited. That's why I pretty much right after the visit, I committed. He didn't really have time. He didn't really even think about it. He understood and envisioned what the team could be, what San Jose State is. And, that's quite honestly, given the NIL presence out here in San Jose, and, not being the greatest, and it's something that they're trying to work on and improve on. That's why they're able to get some of these recruits, because of the culture. And the culture term kind of gets thrown out too loosely. But when you talk to Coach Ken is one of these guys. Like, he says hi to everybody. He says hi to everybody. He says bye to everybody. He treats everybody the same, treats everybody with respect, treats the media with respect, shakes everybody's hands before, the media scrum. That is just the guy he is. And everybody sees that. The recruits see that when they go out on their visits. They don't fake anything. And, I think that's important for players in this day and age. Given the NIL stuff, and, some guys are going to go bag chase, but if you're going to go bag chase, by all means do it. I don't discount anybody for saying, hey, if Louisville's throwing $300K at you and you might not play a snap and you want to forego a season of eligibility for the dough, by all means, go do it. But I will say this. You see a guy like Ashton Jeanty that sticks it out at Boise State, had himself a good situation, bets on himself, and look, he's a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, and he's making more money than all of these kids did in the college level. I don't discount anybody for getting their dough, but if you're in yourself a good situation, just seek out all your options. Is my point. And, I'm not in the athlete's shoes. Some guys need it more than others, or, sometimes, these coaches are just out here to leverage, certain things, amongst, trying to get talent. And, that's the way the game is now. I mean, you hear all these other guys talk about, tampering and all this other stuff. Everyone's got their own vision to it. Everyone's got their own opinion on it. But I'll tell you this: San Jose State has done a good job a much better job on recruiting, getting more prize possessions within the portal. Maybe some guys that you probably wouldn't have thought 3 years ago that they were going to get, they're getting now. So that's all credit to the coaching staff, Coach Ken. Just how much success that they've had last year, and I think is going to turn over in year 2. It's a collective of things, and just talking to the guys and being in the room, and talking to a guy like Caleb Presley that arrived after spring ball, after the spring game, and the fact that he almost committed immediately, I think just speaks a whole lot, to the culture that SJSU has within that football program. As far as some other areas are concerned, the wide receivers. Everyone wants to talk wide receiver, and who doesn't with, Craig Stutzman spread and shred offense. I will say that this wide receiver room definitely has more depth than they did last year. Just that doesn't mean that they're going to spread it out. It's going to be even. The ball's going to be evenly distributed. Coach Ken just said today, Coach Ken just basically said today, I just like the fact that we have 6 options that can go catch us a ball and turn a small play into a big play. It basically is kind of what he said. And, I think that's important, because if a guy does go down, God forbid, you have other guys at your disposal. They brought in Danny Scudero, the Sac State transfer. San Jose native. He's a guy that I'd expect, to be on the field in week 1, no doubt. Leland Smith from Purdue didn't get all too much production with the Boilermakers last year. That's a guy that's going to probably making a big impact. And then, just some of the other guys, Matt Coleman, who basically replaced Nick Nash last year in the Hawaii Bowl and at the slot position. And that's a guy that's going to get his and eat, especially given what you saw with Nash do. And, Coleman basically just have like 13 catches for 130 plus receiving yards. That dude went off. So, it's very, the wide receiver room this year, I would say, I would agree. It definitely has more depth. There's definitely more guys. I would say there's more guys that are going to eat. I would say there's probably not that one guy that's going to have like the Nick Nash season. If I were someone that was just projecting, I don't know this obviously, but I think it's going to be one of those things. And we've talked about this with the other Mountain West coaches. There's going to be a guy that, like, deeper in the depth chart, maybe like a Cooper Hoke or, like a Kyrie Scholes or a Jahari Johnson that's going to have like 80 receiving yards for like 4 catches, and one of them's going to be an explosive in the fourth quarter, and a game-winning touchdown, because that's the way the offense is set up under the spread and shred with Craig Stutzman. So it's one of these things where San Jose State, given the scheme, yes, they had Nick Nash as wide receiver 1. Justin Lockhart was as good as a wide receiver 2 that you were going to find in the country last year, just given the numbers. And I don't think it's going to be the same way this year, just because I think the Spartans and the coaching staff just like more of what they have across the board, if that makes sense. Within the wide receiver room. Now, don't get me wrong. There's going to be still guys that are going to be, leading the team in receiving yards and stuff like that, are going to get probably more. They're going to get more dough than some of these other guys as far as the football is concerned. But I do think across the board, this wide receiver room has a chance, and this offense overall has a chance to be more productive. The number one thing within this offense is you can't turn over the football. I know that sounds cliche. I think everybody understands, like, you can't turn over the ball. But when this team turned over the ball last year, like when the offense would make mistakes, the defense forced a jillion turnovers, and that's why they won some of those close games. But offensively, when, they have the mistakes and they're giving that team an extra possession, it's one of those things where, given what their offense is and, the quick strike ability, it's problematic. And that's something that the team's working on. I think that's the beauty of having tons of returners on offense in particular. The roster continuity stuff, it all comes into play. So I think that is something that they've been working hands-on with Walker. Like, and, it goes back to the something I asked Coach Ken with the slide and dive stuff. And I've even asked it to Coach Stutzman in this last year in the middle of the season, just because when you see all these NFL quarterbacks sliding, which I think sliding is very dangerous on the cornerback. And, you can argue it's more dangerous than maybe just like, taking a hit, or what in Walker Egan's case is what he does. They've told him just to dive, just because it's the more safer play. So, the sliding stuff, I mean, sure, you can farm for the 15 yards, but I think it's more so on the safety of the quarterback. That's the player safety is obviously most important when it comes to all of this. So I think that's why they've told them to dive. I got no problem with it at all. I think it's the more optimal situation, for a lot of these quarterbacks. So I think, personally, it's a good move that they're teaching them that, and the coaching staff is implementing that to all the dudes and all the guys in the quarterback room. As far as the turnovers are concerned, that's something that they've been working on with Walker, and just amongst the guys offensively. Because if you recall last year, they played Kennesaw. San Jose State played Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State was one of the worst FBS teams in the entire country last year, and they were very fortunate to win the game by like 20 points. But they had like 3 or 4 turnovers. Like Nick Nash got the ball, like he didn't have the best ball security. I think Emmett Brown threw like an interception in the game. Like, there was some plays where you're like thinking to yourself, man, they're kind of lucky that this is the Kennesaw State Owls. No disrespect to the Owls. I love the Owls. Shout out to our boy Kai Millette out there in Kennesaw, Georgia. But, it's one of those things that, like, you're lucky it's versus a Conference USA cellar dweller and not, middle tier, top tier team in the Mountain West. And that's what got them in trouble in the Boise State game, right? All the turnovers. And then you see the results given, just that game. So that's something hands down that they got to work on. That is, I would say you got to have that corrected for Central Michigan. The players know that. Everybody knows that. And I think who knows what's going to happen with the defensive numbers as far as the turnovers, because they were like second in the FBS in turnovers. I would probably say it's one of those things where I would expect that to come down just a little bit, just because it's so hard to replicate, just crazy, takeaway numbers like that every single year. So we'll see how that pans out. But I have to say, the vibes are high over there. Talking with Jalen Applett-Williams for at the safety spot. I'd expect a bigger role for him this year. This guy's been on the team since the 21-22 season. So basically, him and Walker are like the longest existing players on this team. And obviously, Walker's getting his turn. I think this guy on defense has a chance to really make an impact. He's been in a lot of these packages over the years defensively, but I think between him and Isaiah Rivas at the safety spot, I think you got to feel good at where you're at. For the fan base is concerned, Rivas was really good at the back end of last year, had the key interception in the fourth quarter versus Stanford. And I think Jalen Applett-Williams is another guy. And he's all business. He's all focused. He's like, 30 days. We just got to be ready for week 1. So a lot of these guys are all business, but I mean, you can just tell by the way they talk, the way they carry themselves. Some of these guys on the team that they just have a more bigger role than just what their job is on the football field. They're trying to rally a unit. And I think Jalen is definitely one of those guys. That is definitely doing that on this defense, along with plenty of others, as we mentioned. So I think that will just about do it for us here on this live stream. Thanks for everybody that tuned in, tuned out. People are coming and going. I understand it's a Wednesday afternoon. People got work. People got their own schedules. But just wanted to give a little brief update on on San Jose State football after the first day of camp. Like everybody has said, it's just day one. Can't take too much away from it. Can't, let down all the, some stuff. It's simple to you can't really overreact or really take too much away from all of this. When it's all said and done, we're going to see what the team looks like in week 1 versus Central Michigan. And we're going to go from there, and we can see how the team's going to get better and better. But you could kind of learn, it's always good to kind of just see, the guys on the field, how the players are talking amongst each other, just the overall chemistry, getting to know some of the guys personally as a media guy myself. And, I think my job here is, I'm going to be broadcasting games for radio this year. So, I'll be doing that, but I also want to document the progress of this team, because look, 3rd in the preseason polls. I mean, people have them projected to win 7 or 8 games this year. I think the fan base is very excited this year compared to years in past, just given the way the schedule looks and the scheme and the coaching staff and the returning production. There is a whole lot to like with this team. And, just given the new landscape with the expanded playoff, we've talked to people at Media Day. They said that the Mountain West champion, whoever comes out of that, can very well represent in, the college football playoff. And when you're picked 3rd in the preseason polls, people think highly of you. And, there's expectations with the team this year. They're expected to do very good. They're expected to be in the championship conversation, come November time. And, my My goal here is on this side of things is just to pump out college football, SJSU, Mountain West coverage across the board. And that's what we're here to do. So appreciate the support from everybody. Like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend. Always appreciate the fan base on Twitter, for interacting with all the stuff that we're doing out here in San Jose, California. And hey, appreciate the love and support for everybody. If you just tuning in, tuning out, this will be available for replay. We'll be uploading it on the audio side as well. Once again, I'm Nick Urias signing off here on the Sports Sentiment live stream.